I'm Stephen Thompson.
I'm Tyler Moran, sports writer for the Pitt News.
I'm Nick Carlosana.
I'm Sammy Abubate. We're sports writers for the Pitt News.
Today we're debating the college football playoff. Did they get it right? Did they get it not right? I think they did. The real debate is between kind of Oklahoma, Georgia, and UCF and Ohio State for that last spot. I think they got it right. Oklahoma had one loss during the regular season, and that was to Texas, who's the number 14 team in the country. They came back and beat them in their conference championship handily. On the other hand, Ohio State lost by 29 to Purdue on the road, which not a great look, losing to a 6-6 team on the road. And then UCF, I just think it comes down to strength of schedule, playing in the American Conference. I know it's a handicap, and I know it's something that they can't help, but when you compare resumes, their resume just isn't as strong as Oklahoma's, or any of the other teams, quite frankly. In Georgia with the 2 losses, it's tough to put anyone in those 2 losses.
Yeah, I mean, the UCF argument, I feel like if Mackenzie Milton was not injured, I believe that argument would have a little more leverage and they might have a chance to be in the playoff a little bit more. But I'm not saying I don't disagree with the playoff decisions. I agree with all 4 teams being in. I can see why everyone, but I just feel that losses in the middle of the season are taken way too, with way too much, seriousness. I don't believe that. I believe that Ohio State team would have put a better fight against Alabama than Oklahoma inevitably will, because I just believe Alabama is going to be Oklahoma, handily.
I just think it really all depends on how you look at it. If you want the 4 best teams in there, I think the 4 best teams were the top 3, they got it right. And I do technically think Georgia was a better team than Oklahoma and Ohio State, but it all comes down to the fact that Georgia had 2 losses, one of them being a blowout in the middle of the season to LSU, and the fact that they weren't a conference champion. Oklahoma was a conference champion. They had 1 loss in the middle of the season to a high-ranked team in Texas, and they avenged that in the conference championship game, versus Ohio State that also had a blowout loss to an unranked team in Purdue in the middle of the season. And even though UCF was an undefeated team, and I think that they would deserve a spot in the playoff where they're not better teams, I think the weakness of their conference really plays into that. And I also think the discussion was tampered a little bit this year because their star quarterback, Mackenzie Milton, got hurt a couple of games left in the season.
The easy solution to who should be in and who shouldn't be in is to expand the playoff field. And by doing that, you allow teams like Ohio State, UCF to compete against what should be the best teams. And if they catch fire and beat the best teams, and they were the best team that day and deserve to move on with a chance at the national championship, and can include conference champions or undefeated teams. Bottom line is the playoff field needs to be expanded because every year there's controversy over who should be the last spot in. But if you expand the playoff field, you have a chance for 4 more teams to show their merit and see how they stack up against all the other top 4 teams.
I agree with expansion, but I don't necessarily agree that conference champions should get in, because I think the college football playoff has a little bit of a different vibe than, say, the NCAA tournament, where there's 64 teams and you can afford to put some teams in there as wild cards. I think people want to see the 8 best teams if they were to expand it, or the 4 best teams in the country. So I don't know if guaranteeing a conference championship spot would be for the best interest, but I do think expanding it to 8 teams would be a good idea.
I disagree with you. I think at some point results have to matter. We can say all we want. We want the 4 best teams. We want the 4 best teams. But how do we determine those 4 best teams? The results matter. Your regular season matters. And that's why I think getting to a conference championship game and winning a conference championship game, I think that should be taken into consideration more than just passing the eye test, because I think those results are what's most important.
So you think if Pitt would have won, they should have deserved a spot in the playoff?
That was the system, sure. But
I mean, if Pitt beat an undefeated Clemson to take the ACC championship, you don't think they deserve a chance to show their worth against other teams?
I think they deserve it in a high-ranked, important bowl game, but not necessarily college football playoff.
But think about how often that happens. How often does a team like Pitt
Yeah.
beat a team like Clemson in
Very
the
rarely.
conference championship championship. How often does a team like Pitt
Yeah.
get to a conference championship
Right.
game?
I
Like,
was thinking the same thing. Like Pitt was 7-5 coming into the conference championship. Obviously, with the loss 7-6, they lose their bowl game 7-7. How many 7-7 teams in college football have you like seen? I don't really, because how many 7-5 teams make their conference championship?
exactly my
Little
point.
to
Like,
none.
I think it's a little bit of a red herring because you're hitting on an extreme hypothetical. Pitt was the only team with less than 8 losses, I think, to make a. I think Northwestern was an 8-win team, but they were also kind of an anomaly. Most of these teams that are playing in Power 5 conference championships, they're usually ranked. It's usually a ranked versus ranked matchup. So I don't. UCF has definitely earned a lot, but I think a lot of a lot of their resume is based off of what they did last year too, and you have to take each year into consideration by itself. UCF's put together an impressive 23-game win streak. 24? 25. 12 of those games were last year. This is a different team this year. You have a lot of returners, but it's the same UCF, or it's different UCFs. I'm sorry. You can't combine years just because it's convenient, and to say that they deserve a spot in this year's playoff because of what they did last year is unfair.
At the end of the day, what the playoff ranking committee is good at is picking 4 teams who create exciting matchups. So you get to the semifinals and you'll probably have 2 really good games in each of the championship. You'll most likely have a good game unless Alabama does Alabama and blows somebody out.
In the end, I say expand to 8 teams. You get the conference champions most likely in the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12, and you're probably going to get another strong team from some of those conferences, and maybe a program from a weaker conference that's having strong years like UCF.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just the fact that UCF will, I just don't, even if Mackenzie Milton's returning next year for a senior year, I'm assuming. I believe if they go undefeated next year, I still don't think the committee's going to put them in the playoff because their conference is too weak and the committee's just not going to give them the respect that they probably deserve, but they just, being honest, they just cannot hang with teams like Alabama, Clemson. It just cannot happen.